I didn't like it. So I watched the replay of the game on Saturday because I went out to the Incubus concert Friday night.
Oh,
so
did you go?
It was good. Yeah, it was good. It was
Fun.
very good. They're still very good. They put on a show. I did not like just where the offense was because it felt very similar to some of the things that I've seen in training camp. And specifically, there's a lot of short passing that was going on. And then when they tried to throw the ball downfield, outside of the one play that who was it? Philip Dorsett. Right, where it's a ruled incomplete pass and then it was overturned. Like outside of that, it just felt like everything was kind of squeezed into a box. And look, you can't make too much out of the preseason because they're not running real plays. All I will say is if we're talking about a theme that has taken place in Texans training camp, it's that Davis Mills has been throwing a lot of quick hits. And I don't have a problem with that, but when it turns into a bunch of 3-and-outs and then you add a couple of fumbles that they had in there, yeah, I wasn't thrilled with what I saw from the offense. I don't think it's the end of the world by any means. It's the preseason, but I didn't like it.
It was the Rams 2s, that made the Texans 1s not look very good.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't see Dameon Pierce play, but yeah, I mean, it wasn't anything that was overly impressive. The offense as a whole, a couple of minutes ago, we see these reporters at training camp tweeting Davis Mills with a laser to Brandon Cooks. That's great. We need to see some of that in the preseason games. Like you said, it's not like it's real life. Sean, what were your initial impressions of the Texans Rams?
Yeah, I'm shocked that the Rams, I don't know how many people they have on their roster that they can play literally no one I've ever heard of and still field a football team.
They said on the broadcast there wasn't a single starter.
Yeah, it's very impressive to me. There's a guy named Durant, and Kevin Durant tweeted a picture of him saying it's his long-lost cousin. That's about all. And the cool Philip Dorsett catch. That's really what's stuck out to me. Also, I don't get the why are we not playing Dameon Pierce? What's the deal with that? He's
Glad
the third.
You said that.
He's third string on the depth chart, so it's not like he's a starter. What are we doing?
You seem like you have some thoughts on this too.
I
want you to go first.
I do. I was not impressed by that. So let's start with what we were unimpressed by.
Dameon Pierce.
Give a couple of things. I was not impressed by the fact that they didn't play Dameon Pierce. We weren't really given a good reason. He isn't listed as quarterback. If he's listed as QB1 on the depth chart, then yeah, you rest your not QB1, excuse me, as your number one running back. Then it makes sense to rest him for the second preseason game. But he's not listed as the top running back.
Well, maybe that was by design.
That could be, because according to reporters out at camp right now, Lovie Smith seems very, very, very confident in Dameon Pierce. I still would like to see more of him.
I'd like to see more of him, but it's selfish.
Correct.
Where in this game, if he's not out there, that's probably a sign that he's further up the depth chart than we think. And if you've been out there, I brought it up a couple of times. Like, he has been the most exciting new player to watch.
He's been a nice surprise.
Yeah. I mean, Jalen Petrie's getting a lot of reps, but Pierce, every time Pierce touches the ball, you get excited. And this was not, think about it from this perspective as well. If you like Rex Burkhead, you're probably not feeling so good about Rex Burkhead after this game, after the fumble.
Does anybody like Rex Burkhead
I
except
like Rex
the front
Burkhead.
office?
I like Rex Burkhead.
You like Rex Burkhead for the nostalgic reason.
Because he played for the Patriots.
Yeah.
Yes. And he's also a very nice guy.
I will say this, very nice.
One of my friends worked at a hospital in Boston, and there's this kid that played. This kid from Nebraska, diehard Nebraska fan, and he was very cool with that kid because, of course, he did too. So, but at the same time, this isn't about like who you like and who you don't like. It's about, are you good? And I would say the same thing about Marlon Mack too. I mean, he was out there. He's still in the NFL. Give him credit after bouncing back from a torn Achilles. He was pretty damn good with Indianapolis before he popped that Achilles.
So, what were you unimpressed by?
Really, the offense.
The offense. Just
I mean, I'm with you in that. I selfishly would have liked to see Dameon Pierce, but I think it actually theoretically is a good thing that Pierce did not play. I think that means that we might actually see more of Pierce this coming season than I expected. These depth charts that they put out there, don't get too. I would just speak to the average person that watches them, and like, if maybe you're diehard and you're like focusing on the depth chart and you're like, oh, this is outrageous. They like purposefully misdirect you at times. And the only interesting thing about, like, it would have been something else if the Texans on the depth chart put all the rookies not in first string too, even though Jalen Petrie and Derek Stingley Jr. are playing. So they're being a little honest with the depth chart. But yeah, anyway, sorry, I'm speaking forever about this. I think Dameon Pierce is going to play a lot this year.
I hope so.
And I think that's why they kept him out of the game.
Sean, anything you were just blatantly unimpressed by?
I mean, everyone except for Kyle Allen. Everyone on offense except Kyle Allen made a good drive at the end of the game.
Hell yeah.
Or no, was that Driscoll? Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know who they are.
Neither of these guys are going to play. If they're playing games, the Texan season is ruined. So
I was unimpressed by Ross Blacklock, and I want Ross Blacklock to do well, but he hasn't developed the way that I think that the Texans hoped that he would develop.
No, that's true.
Davis Mills in general, they did lead at the half, thanks in large part to the Dorsett deal, and I think, Nico Collins, who I was impressed
Collins
by.
had a good offseason.
So I was impressed by Nico Collins.
Okay.
The Texans' defense in general wasn't a disaster. And if you've covered the Texans the last couple years, I have at various times, it's just nice to see the Texans' defense not be a disaster. Again, these are not the Rams starters. I'm not saying this is indicative of what we'll see.
And it's not the true defensive schemes, but you're right.
It's nice to see them not look like they're pooping the bed all the time.
What did you think of Derek Stingley Jr.? We finally saw him out there. He played, I think Lovie Smith said, around 15 plays. It's nice to see him out there. It's always tricky to watch these games too with the camera angles that you get if you're trying to focus on a cornerback specifically. But it's good to see him out there. I think you need as much seasoning as possible this year for him. And honestly, there's a part of me that acknowledges that the more that he gets beat, the better, because it'll make him a better player. Corners have a tough time early on in the NFL. It's very difficult with the changes that come from college to the pros, with the different kind of routes that are run against you, with what you can't get away with. But it was great to see him out there finally, too, because I think there was some concern a couple of weeks ago if he was actually going to play much this year coming off of the surgery.
Marlon Mack, okay. I put him under impressed. This is controversial.
Controversial indeed.
He's coming off an injury. He rushed 8 times for 29 yards. It wasn't like it was some spectacular performance. Judging by the fact that he's coming off of an injury and the fact that he really wasn't able to do much in Indianapolis and was quite frankly a letdown in Indy, I think that he was at least an interesting addition. This to me is the preseason has just become guys trying to make a roster, right? I mean, it's nothing that and actually I heard a couple of the national commentators talking about it, especially the teams that don't do joint practices. And if you guys remember, Lovie Smith said he's like against joint practices. This really is the time that they're trying to see them in action. We did hear from Davis Mills. Now, we've poked a little bit of fun at Davis Mills for saying certain things, certain cliches.
We're going to shock the world.
We're going to shock the world, said Davis Mills. He clarified that this weekend.
To Peter King.
I don't think I need to elaborate too much on it. I don't think the media nationally has given the Houston Texans a lot of attention. I think we know better than anyone else in the building. And I mean, our guys have full confidence in what we're capable of, and we're excited to get rolling with this season.
Hell yeah, dude.
It's just cliche after cliche after cliche.
I think it's a sexy cliche.
If he came out and was like, guys, everyone in this room thinks we're going to stink. So if we're good, and I believe we are going to be good because I have to because I'm the quarterback, I can't think that we stink. It would shock the world if we're good. That's all I'm saying, guys. Like, he should just drop the, we're going to play hard. I'm proud of the guys.
I like it.
Like, by definition, if the Texans are good, it will shock the world.
You guys are just haters.
Great point.
You guys are just haters. It's football time in Houston. They just beat the Super Bowl champions, and he said, no one's talking about the Houston Texans. No one's talking about them.
He is right, though, because now that Deshaun's gone.
Right. What's the point?
The problem
what do
is
you talk about?
When they do talk about him, it's, God, these guys stink. Look at that roster. That's the
yeah,
problem.
it's like the Texans were not good, but there was also so much off-the-field drama. Like Jack Easterby, that story was the juiciest thing in the entire league, to the point to where when Cal had a press conference, or Nick, one of the two, it was like 12 of the 15 questions were about Jack, and then you had the Deshaun Watson situation and then the remnants of the DeAndre Hopkins trade. Now it's just like they're rebuilding.
You say rebuilding.
Reloading?
I see the eye of the tiger in Davis Mills right now.
The thrill of the fight.
It's just the
I knew it would come.
Well, we could play some Rocky IV montage too. You're just not. You guys are underestimating the Texans, much like Rocky was underestimated after he lost to Clubber Lang in Rocky III. Much like Rocky was underestimated before he fought Ivan Drago in Rocky IV. much like Rocky was underestimated before he fought the guy in Rocky 5.
Yeah.
Much like he was underestimated
Never seen Rocky.
in Rocky Balboa, too. They said he couldn't beat cancer in Rocky 7. He did. Rocky.
Rocky 7.
Is there a 7?
It was like Creed.
Creed.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was
Creed.
Creed 2. My bad.
Can you take
not
me
Creed 1.
higher?
Yeah, it's